Hey everyone, today I'm reviewing the Tiguan Allspace comfort line. The model I'm reviewing is the 132 TSI, so this has got the 2-litre turbo engine in it. I've been really interested to actually review the Tiguan because they are a really popular car, and I actually haven't ever driven the Tiguan before. I haven't even driven the older model before, so I'm really interested to see what this car's like to drive. And it's sort of good timing because I only just recently reviewed the Skoda Kodiaq, which is a very similar car to this, so it'll be really interesting to see how the two compare against each other. So in my video, what I'll do is I'll first of all take you around the car, so we'll see the exterior of the car, we'll jump in the car, we'll have a look at the interior of the car, then we'll finally take the car for a drive and see what it's like to drive. If you do like my videos, please feel free to subscribe by pressing the subscribe button down below on the right there. Alright, so let's take a look at this Tiguan Allspace. So looking at this Tiguan from the outside, I personally think it looks a bit boxy. This one's in the pure white colour, and it's got the two-tone, so you can see running along the bottom there's that sort of plastic, grey plastic look, and you see that all along the car. Personally, I think it makes the car look a bit cheap, but it is the mid-tier car, so obviously they want the high-tier cars to look a bit more classy and expensive, so they've got to differ them a bit. Now, being the Allspace, this is like a stretched out version of the standard Tiguan, so it is actually a bit longer. Kind of fills that gap for VW where they had sort of the Tiguan, which wasn't big, and then the Touareg, which was really big, so it's that sort of middle class there for them and give them a car in that offering. So having a look at the wheels and the tyres, first of all, this has got 18-inch wheels on it. Not super impressed with the wheels. I don't think they're very sporty looking. These tyres on here are Conti Sport tyres, and they're 235 wide, 55-inch high. And you can see the brakes under there, which look like a reasonable size. And so having a look around the side here, you can see there's some chrome running along the bottom just before it hits into that plastic here. And then having a look at the back, you can see that plastic again running along the back, and then you can see those two fake exhausts on each side there, and I'm not a big fan of that. You've got the rear parking sensors, which you can see there, and this has obviously got a rear camera as well. And then we'll take you around the side to have a look at another angle of it. You can see that it's got the roof rails at the top there to put roof racks on if you wanted to put any roof racks on the car. And then we'll take you around the front of the car to have a look at the front. Now this has got LED lights. You can see them on now there. I think that the lights look pretty good. It's got the VW badging, and then just below you can see right at the bottom there the fog lights. Again, a few plastic bits there because it is the mid-tier sort of range. I don't mind the front. It's probably my favorite part of the car from the outside, to be honest. And then back around the side here just to take a look at the side. So now we'll just jump in the car and show you what it's like in the interior. So jumping in the car, this has got keyless entry, so just walk up to the car, touch it, I've got the keys in the pocket, and it will open for me. So firstly, having a look at the gauges here, doesn't have a virtual cockpit like the Skoda Kodiaq. These are just the standard gauges. So on the right there, you've got your speedo. Just below the speedo, you've got your fuel gauge. In the center that you've got the DIS, and I'll just show you some of the options in there shortly. And then on the left there, we've got the tachometer and then the temperature just below it. So just having a quick look at the DIS, you can see your speed at the moment digitally. Below that, you've got your temperature, how many kilometers the car has done. This car's just done, as you can see, just over 20,000 kilometers, and then the current trip. And then you've got a few different options you can flick through on the steering wheel, so you can have a look at the systems, you can have a look at the drive-by sort of navigation, and then you can have a look at the audio here, what's playing on the stereo system. The telephone, obviously if you're taking a call, and then to the vehicle status here telling me that it needs a oil change, and then back to the driving data. Within the driving data, there's a few different views that you can go through here. So you can look at setting warnings, oil temperature, you can look at the economy, and then the current economy. So you can see 9.6, which is, I've been driving most of this around the city, and then you can see the range. The car's pretty full, so it's about 670 kilometers there. It's telling me to an empty tank. And then just the travel time and distance traveled so far. So looking around the cockpit, to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of this cockpit. I think, again, if I'm comparing it to the Skoda, which I was in the other day, I think the Skoda's a bit nicer place to be in. So you look here, and it's obviously not the top of the range, so you've got these cloth seats, but they're looking pretty basic and nothing special. You've got a bit of cloth around the armrests here. Again, it looks a bit basic. You've got a bit of the shiny plastic here, which I think looks okay. And then having a look, you can see that shiny plastic here on the dashboard there. The plastics feel pretty similar to the Skoda Kodiaq. It's got a bit of a soft feel to it, makes it feel a bit nicer than your really sharp plastic. And then if I take you around to the infotainment system here, this is an 8-inch infotainment system. It's touchscreen. It's nicely integrated, and it does look nice. It is part of the interior that I do like. So you've got a few options here in the menu. You can see the radio, you've got your media. It does have standard navigation in this. So you've got your traffic if you want to use that, and then you've got your traffic notifications. You've got the telephone options, you've got your vehicle status, you've got the app connect, so you can obviously connect Android or an Apple phone to this, and then it has the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and then you've got the VW sort of media internet connection. Then there's a second menu here where you can see the sound. You got the climate control options here, and you got some further settings. So just having a look at some of the settings, just have a look. Just the basic settings here, display settings, nothing too fancy in there. And then if I just go back to the menu here and just show you the vehicle settings, there's just shows you the vehicle status and the tire pressure monitor there. So that's the infotainment system. Coming down here, this has got tri-zone climate control here, so you've got your climate control settings just there, as you can see. And then you can see you've got your USB plugs where you can plug 2 USB sockets in there, and you've got like an auxiliary plug as well, and then the 12-volt cigarette lighter charger there. And then you've got the gearbox here, DSG gearbox. We'll talk a bit more about that later when we take it for a drive. You can see the buttons there. It's got an automatic handbrake, it's got the auto hold. Just down here you've got a few different full drive options. You wouldn't be taking this too much off-road, but you've got a snow option, you've just got the not on-road option, and then you've got sort of some hill terrain options here. This mode button, by pressing that, this will take you into the driver settings here, so you can put it into normal, sports and custom, and it looks really similar to that's available in the Skoda Kodiaq, so it's pretty much, I'd say, the same system. You've got your auto off and on. You can turn off if you want, just stopping and starting the car. You've got your parking sensors. So looking at the reverse camera, I think it gives you a good view of the rear, and then you can see sort of a 360-degree view of the car on the left there. If you touch the screen here, you can also have a look at a few different other angles here if you want. So you can have a look near the bumper bar, which is quite cool. You can have a look around some of the obstacles and things like that, and then it gives you back to sort of put the lines in there. So there's a few different options there which you don't always get in most cars, so I think that's good to get those few different camera options. You've got your automatic parking button there to help you park the car, and then you've got your parking sensors which you can turn on or off. Looking around the car, you've got a few cup holders and storage space there, and then you've got the glove box here, a reasonable amount of room in the glove box. And then you've got also further storage here. And then I'll take you back around to the steering wheel, which shows you some of the buttons on the steering wheel. I think they're fairly easy to use. You've got your cruise control buttons, your assistance button you can see here for your driver assistance, and then you've got your volume button down below there. You can see just behind me, these blinker stalks, personally for me, look very familiar. You see these ones pretty much across the whole VW Audi group, so you can find those on an Audi, Skoda, and obviously the Tiguan as well. The steering wheel, it's a reasonable size. I don't think it's too big, I don't think it's too small. And then having a look on the right, you've got your voice recognition. What I was controlling the DIS with and the different options in the DIS it's here, and that's also the view for the DIS. Going between different tracks is here, and then you can also control further options within the DIS here. This doesn't have any Tiptronic behind the steering wheel. You do have the Tiptronic that you can use on the gear stick there if you want. You've got your headlight switch here, you've got the auto option obviously, and then you've got the boot button, and then you've got your mirror and window buttons here. And then you've got a bit of storage just down there as well. Up here you've got a heap of storage. You've got sunglass holder, which is quite big. There's further storage at the back there, and I'll show you up the top here just behind that, but I'll show you that when I get in the back. So a heap of storage, you can store things. You've got your interior lighting controls up here. These are manual seats, so it doesn't have electric seats in this model. It's completely manually adjustable seats. So we'll just hop out and jump in the back of the car, and I'll show you the room in the back of the car. So in the back of the car now, and there's a heap of room. Like there's more than enough room here. These seats are on rails, so there's a rail just underneath here where you can move the seat back and forwards. In the back, again, the seats are looking fairly plain in here. Just that fabric. Obviously, you can go up to a higher model and you'll get the leather seats. Some of the interesting things are seen in here. It's actually got, it's like if I'm on a plane or something, it's actually got a tray holder here for drinks. So it's quite interesting. It's, instead of having your drinks holder, it's actually got a tray here, so you can have a full meal here if you want. Seems pretty sturdy as well. I'm not sure about the safety. If you had a car accident or something like that, you wouldn't want it up. You can choose do the tri-zone climate control, as I mentioned before. So you can obviously control that in the back here. And then you've got another USB plug and another 12-volt socket here. The drivetrain comes up a bit in this. Does sort of lessen the leg room in the middle seat there, but it still seems like you've got a reasonable amount of leg room in the middle seat. It's got your cup holders here in case you don't want to use the tray, and then you've just got your interior light controls there. And as I mentioned before, there's further storage here where you could potentially maybe even put some entertainment, maybe something not too heavy in there for the kids, or even store further things. So a heap of different storage places, which is quite good. Just going to test out this middle seat. The middle seat, it seems reasonably comfortable. Sometimes you get a middle seat that's pretty hard, but this one is reasonably comfortable, and also give you a bit of a look at the interior from a bit of a different view there as well. What I'll do is I'll put the 7 seats up, and then we'll just take a look at how much room's in that third row. So getting that third row up wasn't as easy as I thought. You've actually got to move the seats a bit further forward in the second row here. If they're fully back as they were before, it doesn't actually allow you to pull up that third row. Now to get into this third row, there's a few different options. You can either pull this here, which will fold the seat forward here, and you can hop in there, but obviously it gives you little room and you'd probably be dragging your feet along the fabric here. So you can also use this top button and pull it here. Now if you've put some force into it, and I'm not lying, you have to put a bit of force in there, it will move the seat forward, and that will give you a bit more room, and then you can hop in the back. So once in the back, you can pull this back up, push it a bit forward. There's a limit to how much that you can push forward from the third row here, so you'd need the passenger to do that. That passenger would have to push it further, the second row further back, to give them some leg room. But if they did, they're not leaving me with much leg room. So very little space in here. If you're an adult, I would say a large adult would struggle to fit in this third row. And it does feel like there's less room in this than the Skoda Kodiaq. So I'd say definitely only to be used for small children on a longer trip. And I think even small children might start to feel a bit uncomfortable here in the longer trip. The people in the second row would obviously get a bit less room, because obviously these seats are pulled a bit forward now, and as you can see, there's still not a huge amount of room for that second row when pulled forward. You've got cup holders in here, and then these seats, again, the similar seats that you get throughout the car, and you've got the headrest there. To get out, we'll just pull this up again, push forward there, and allows us to get out. What we'll do is I'll go show you the boot space, and we'll show you it with the 7 seats up, and then we'll put them down. So to open the boot, quite easy. She's got the handle just there. It's an electronic boot, so you just have to touch it and it'll make its way up electronically. So the boot space here with the 7 seats up, you've still got a bit of space. Gives you about 270 litres worth of space, so it's not too bad. You can see here you've got your cargo cover, which actually have to take off to get those 7 seats up, and then below that you've got the spare wheel, which is a sort of space saver spare wheel, and the tire changing tools there. So to put these 7 seats down, it's fairly easy. You've got the button here, so you can just click this button there, and then you just push them down. I've pushed again. I mentioned that with the seats fully back, you can't get these up, and it's just showing you there that's exactly right. It's not allowing me to push it down fully. So if I show you this one where the seats on the left hand side here are a bit further forward. So you're just pushing here and it will let me now push that completely flat. So I'll just move the seat a bit further forward and then we'll come back to the boot so you can see the boot space with all the seats down. Now with all the seats down, it's quite a good sized boot here. It isn't, again, as big as the Skoda Kodiaq. It's only about 700 litres, but that's still a pretty good size. So you've got a few little storage areas there. I showed you before the cargo cover and things like that that's stored under there. You can fold down the rear seats here. So if we want to have a look at so push that, you can see it folds down, and this one here. And then I'll just give them a bit of a push and we can have a look at the room with everything folded down. So now with all the seats folded down, you can see that gives you quite a fair bit of room there. So if you want to carry any large loads, it will give you a good amount of room. You could probably even put like a small single mattress in there and sleep in there if you're super keen. Alright, so this has got an automatic close. To close the boot, just this button here, and just press that and it will close. Alright, so what we'll do is we'll jump into the car and then I'll take it for a drive and I'll tell you what it's like to drive. So in the car, driving it now, look, the car feels quite smooth driving it along the road. Obviously if you put some more lower profile tyres on it, you probably start to feel the ride get a bit harder, but no, it's definitely a smooth ride in the car, and I definitely can't complain about the ride in the car. Seating position, it actually took me a while to get comfortable in this seating position. Now, it may have just probably been the way that the driver before had it, but I had to make a few little adjustments. Now I've got the right position. I think it's quite good. It's fairly comfortable. Looking around the car, there's not too many blind spots. On the left there, at the back, in the far left, there's a bit of a window that in some angles kind of is hard to see out, so it's kind of a bit useless to be honest there. But besides that, viewing around the car's reasonably good. Don't have too many blind spots in the car. So technology in this car, not a huge amount of technology. I thought you'd get a bit more, but if you want more, you'll have to tick a few options boxes. No adaptive cruise control there, no side assist. You've got lane keep assist, so basically it helps you track in your lane. You have to be over a certain speed limit for that to actually kick in. You've got emergency braking in this, and then you've got the basic features which you get in all the cars these days, like the traction control and the ABS brakes and everything that you come to sort of expect. The controls in the car, I think everything's pretty easy to use. Sometimes you get in these cars and then you get a bit lost. There's too many controls and sort of takes you a while to figure out where everything is. And if you own the car, maybe it's a bit fun to play around with there, but if you're sort of just driving the car for a short time, just sometimes it can get a bit annoying. But with this car, I jumped in, found everything very easy. There's no issues at all. Everything's really easy, an arm length away, really easy to find everything. You don't have to take your eyes off the road at all really to get the control. So I think the ergonomics of the car is quite good. The sound system in this has just got the standard sound system in this, but it's really that European quality that you expect. That the speakers and bass in it's really good, and unless you're very particular, and similar to what I said about the Skoda Kodiaq, actually you wouldn't need to upgrade the speakers. I think that more than capable enough in this car. The cabin noise, there's not too much cabin noise in this. It's pretty quiet. I would say it's not as quiet as a Skoda Kodiaq inside, but look, it's not a noticeable difference. So I think most people driving wouldn't notice the difference between the two. So the fuel consumption in this, driving it, I haven't been driving it that much, so the gauge hasn't really moved too much because I haven't been doing too much driving. VW says that the combined fuel consumption of this is 7.9 litres per 100 kilometres, which is reasonable, so you should still get a fair bit out of a full tank. It's only a reasonably small tank in this. It's only got a 60 litre tank in it, so it's not massive, but on a highway drive you should get about 800 to 900 kilometres out of it. In the city, as you saw before, it was telling me that I'd be getting around 670 kilometres out of it, so I probably will get a bit less out of that once you start driving it around. The brakes in this car, we'll just test them now actually. They're not too bad. They're not unbelievable, but they do the job and they pull you up. A tiny bit of a soft touch when you first press the brakes. The steering of this, I find the steering a bit light in this, to be honest. feel that it could be more engaging. You could sort of feel the car a bit more. I just found it a bit light and not so engaging when driving the car around. Handling wise, again, like, it's not bad, the handling. It's not supposed to be a sports car, but I just thought the handling would be a tiny bit better. It rolls, like the car rolls a bit. Now, once it does its initial roll, body roll, it's actually alright, and it seems to hold itself quite well around the bend. But if I'm comparing again to that Skoda, I felt the Skoda, and then I was driving the sports line, so it does have a bit more tuned suspension for handling to make it sit a bit more flat, but it definitely sat a lot more flat than this does. But as it not terrible handling, just thought around the bends you get it sit a bit more flatter. But you've got, obviously it's got four-wheel drive, or as VW call it, the 4Motion there, so feel fairly secure when throwing it around bends, and just don't throw it around bends too fast. You'll get a reasonable amount of body roll. So the engine in this car's got the 2-litre turbo engine in there, named the 132 TSI because this is a 132 kilowatt engine that it has in there, and it's got a 320 millimeters of torque, so pretty much similar to the Skoda Kodiaq sports line in terms of power, and the engine's pretty much the same engine anyway, so not too bad, not super powerful. We'll actually just test the engine out now. So just testing out the acceleration here, so I'm just going to stop the car and then we'll just put it in sports mode, just touch the accelerator a bit. Doesn't like too much revving there, just drop it. It's like sort of a stop and start when you rev it. It's okay, it's not too bad. Yeah, and the brakes, stopping it all right. The brakes could be a tiny bit better, to be honest, but yeah. So the acceleration, not too bad, more than enough for what this is. It's not a performance car. You don't need it to be too outrageous, obviously for me the faster the better, but yeah, it's more than enough to get you around. Look, driving around town, it feels like more than enough power. It feels reasonably competent. Actually, at times it felt more competent than when I was driving the Skoda Kodiaq around. A few times when I went overtake, it does feel like there's a bit of a dead spot on the car. So the gearbox in this car, this has got the standard VW DSG gearbox, 7-speed gearbox. It's reasonably smooth. It's not the smoothest gearbox I've ever driven. It seems to work well where it won't always try and jump up the gears to the highest gear. It will adapt to the driving conditions. So if you're going down a hill, it will actually hold a gear for you without so you don't have to brake. But as a dual clutch gearbox, but still not the smoothest dual clutch gearbox around or that I've driven before. In terms of performance, this is okay. It does 8.2 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour. Again, similar to the Skoda Kodiaq. So what do I think of this car? Look, I'm not hugely impressed with it. I thought I'd be a bit more impressed with it than I have been. Although it's a nice car to drive, I don't think if I'm comparing it to the Skoda I drove a couple of months ago, I don't think it really stands out above that. I know it's probably maybe a bit unfair to compare them on road. This is about 45 or 50,000, whereas the Skoda I was driving was a sports line, so that's more like 55 to 60,000 on road. But I feel that there's a few more pluses in the Skoda column than there is in this Tiguan's column, and it feels like there's a bit more technology in the Skoda, and it just feels like it's on a tiny bit more modern platform than this. But in saying that, I think the Tiguan's still a nice car, and if you are a VW fan and you're looking at sort of upgrading from the old Tiguan, then you should definitely take this for a drive and see what you think for yourself. But also make sure you do take the Skoda for a drive and have a good comparison with it, because they're quite similar cars, and I just think the Skoda has a bit of an edge on this. But yeah, all in all, not a bad car. I find it a bit too plain for myself, and not the most exciting car to drive. Not boring, but just not the most exciting car to drive. Again, thanks for watching the video today. If you do like my videos, please feel free to subscribe. And if you do want me to review your car, I'm more than happy to. Just comment, let me know, and then we can organize something.